But yeah, we're putting this band together, and there are going to be sort of two incarnations of it. One sort of stripped down to do some local stuff, and then want to do a showcase later on in the fall. This is sort of very much in the planning stages, but I'd like to have, strings and horns live, and definitely the backup singers, because I think something that really separates the pretenders from the contenders, if you will, live especially, is vocals and really hitting those harmonies.
Right. Yeah, I guess because it is really hard to actually, when you're live in front of an audience, get the vocals just right.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do.
So many people are kind of off all the time.
Well, and it's hard to hear, but you get people who really, real pros can compensate for that. And so, hopefully we'll be able to put something together that we can really, because there's a lot of harmonies on this record. Oh, that's how we started. I was like a nut in the studio, doubling, and tons of tracks, and just sort of like building this thing sort of on the fly. So I'd like to be able to double some of those vocal effects and vocal arrangements live, because
it's part of the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I brought some songs that I know we're going to get to later, but some influences. I love pop. I love classic pop. I love particularly the real orchestral pop of the 60s and 70s, everything from Burt Bacharach to ELO and all kinds of other stops in between. And I don't notice a lot of early Bee Gees. Listen to some early Bee Gees from, 60s.
Yeah. I mean, like the 60s, they really did like getting all orchestral on it.
Sure. And
rhythm and blues even got.
It's really not out there anymore. So, a dream I have for this next record is to record with a nice, tight little band, rock band, pop, and a 16-piece orchestra, and really go to town with the arrangements and stuff. Because I hear all this stuff in my head, but there's just not a lot of people doing that right now. So
you're really like a studio nut. Do you ever see yourself moving into producing other artists too?
That's something I've thought of too. I mean, that would have to come. If that happens, great. I don't see it as something that I would pursue. But if there's an opportunity, I'd always be open to that. 'Cause I love producing.
Cool. And I just wanted to ask you also about, in terms of your influences, right? You told me that you actually started music in the classical realm of things. You were at the conservatory, from the age of 5 or
something
7?
Like that. No, 5 or 6.
You're like a little teeny tot.
Yeah, I was a little kid. My parents got me started with piano lessons, and I wound up going to grade 9 conservatory.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. I really was avid with the practical, learning the pieces. I totally flunked out on the theory because I couldn't have cared less. And after, it went from that to sort of self-teaching myself the drums. Because, my dad had a set of drums that he never used. I think my mom bought him the drums like 10 years, because he was in a marching band in high school. So I don't know what that was all about. I never really got the story straight. But they were in a closet, and I pulled them out and started playing. I wound up doing that professionally, being a drummer for a few years.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, so you definitely are comfortable in the rhythm section and the melodies and
I'm
stuff.
a drummer's nightmare. When I'm a guitar player,
right?
He's like always listening to the drums.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit bossy.
Drummers beware.
Yeah.
And how did you how did you get into the transition? Because you love pop so much, but you spent so much time with classical music. I mean, how did that transition come about, really?
Being a total geek in high school and wanting to hang with the cool people and meet girls. Really?
Yeah. Are you going to say that you got into rock music to get girls?
Rock music to meet girls, chicks. Man. The chicks. Man. No, it's not. I mean, it's not that shameless, but getting into a band. I mean, I couldn't play sports.
Oh God, I know that feeling.
It was musical, and people were starting bands, and I just
Do you remember your first band?
I do.
Oh no, tell us about
It was horrible.
Most first bands are, I gotta say.
Well, I mean, the first band, we just played in my parents' basement. Bless their hearts.
Yeah.
My parents. Yeah, I was, I played in this punk band. I was the drummer, and we were doing all these Ramones covers.
Nice.
And we were trying to get on the Battle of the Bands in high school, and they didn't want to know.
Oh, no.
Whoever was in charge, the music teacher or something, but...
They're like, no. It's
No.
not real music.
They're punks.
Oh, no.
They're bad.
Yeah.
Evil.
They just played Bob Dylan in my high school. It was really,
We
like,
should
it was
have done
kind of cool
that.
at the beginning, but then it got really annoying. Like, I've heard this song
Yeah.
8 million times.
Yeah.
There's other music.
There's other music. There's other songs Bob did. Then Knocking on Heaven's Door.
And what about, I guess, like, the kind of pop that you listened to in high school? Like, the kind, like, specifically, let's talk a bit about the music that actually got you playing and listening.
It was 70s stuff that I was listening to, 70s and early 80s. I would say, I really loved, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Oh, classic.
I love that stuff. My 4th grade music presentation was on Gladys Knight and the Pips. 'Cause I love that Midnight Train to Georgia.
Oh, so good. Have you seen the Soul Train clip of them?
Oh yeah, all that. Look at God bless YouTube. I love YouTube. I can
Yeah.
spend hours and hours and hours on YouTube because there's so much great stuff out
I
there.
spend hours just watching Soul Train alone.
Sure.
Soul Train.
Let's hear your impression.
Oh, I can't do it. Soul Train. I'm so bad at it. But I am one of those people that watch the YouTube videos and try and do the dances too. Totally fail, but yeah, God bless YouTube.
Yeah, I love.
Just right
But I
now.
loved that stuff, and I loved. I would go to school and pretend to be, this hardcore punk, listening to the Damned, and I'd come home and put on Gladys Knight and
The
and
Pips.
Elton John and Beatles and stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah,
So how about we get to one of the tracks that
Sure.
you brought a couple of tracks for us
I did.
to listen to.
As sort
Okay.
of, yeah. And I this is great that I really appreciate your asking
yeah.
me to do this because, it's really interesting to talk about these songs that I brought. They're songs that are great influence, not just to me but to
Right.
a lot of people. The first track is from a band called Big Star.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've never heard of Big Star, the leader was Alex Chilton. Alex Chilton was, as a teenager, the lead singer of the Box Tops. The Box Tops had a couple of top 10 hits in the States in the 60s. And he put together this band in the early 70s. And their records were the first 2 records were just astonishing. And there were, high hopes, obviously. There were some great musicians in the band. And Alex Chilton, who just died last year, much to everybody's chagrin, was one of the greatest writers, in my opinion. One of those guys that influenced everybody that most people have never heard
Right.
of. Right?
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so an unfortunately common story is that there was no promotion for these records. The label was going broke.
Right.
And so they didn't sell, they sold like 2,000 or 3,000 records, at a
Pittance.
time. It was, total commercial failure.
Right.
So by the time of this third record, he was totally bitter.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so
Oh,
we're going to
God.
hear a beautiful song with these incredible, exquisite string arrangements by a guy by the name of Carl Marsh, who's still very active. He's worked with everybody. He works out of, I think, Abbey Road Studios in London.
Cool.
Anyway, one of I think the lead violin player, I'll try and make a long story short.
Yeah.
Lead violin player was a friend of Alex Chilton's dad. His name was
Okay.
Noel Gilbert. So this is a beautiful, haunting song. I'm not even really sure what the lyrics about.
Right.
But Chilton was so bitter that when it came time to name the track, he said, just call it Stroke It Noel. So this dirty sort of double joke,
Yeah.
or double entendre joke to this absolutely haunting piece of music. And you can hear him say halfway through, "Stroke it, Noel," like stroke the violin.
Yeah.
You know, wink, wink.
Dirty old man.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just an absolutely beautiful piece of music.
Great. I'm really excited to hear it because
Yeah.
I've never heard it before. So again, you guys are listening to the Mixtape Escape on CIUT 89.5 FM, and we've been speaking with Lamont James, or Jamont Lane. No, not Jamont Lane.
Newman.
And I'm Talia Newman. I'm the host. I'm here every Monday from midnight to 2 a.m. And this is a song called "Stroke It, Noel" by Big Star that Mr. James has brought in for us to listen to. Here it is, and enjoy.
Child, will you come on down and come on in with me? Morning says to idle on,